Grandma Quilter. And this is Getting Quilty within Quilt Facts. Hi, I'm Debbie, the Grandma Quilter. And this today is working with some of the patterns that we get in the new booklets from Mrs. Quilty. I have the pattern book that I'm going to be using today. It is this one. And let me tell you something, it is freaking awesome. I loved it. And I am going to show you something that I'm going to be making. I will be using fabric from Mrs. Quilty, but I already did a mock-up. So I'm going to show you the mock-up I did of the travel neck pillow. There we go. Travel neck pillow. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to show you the one I already made up with some scrap fabric that I had around, but today we're going to make it with Mrs. Quilty fabric. Let me show you. This is the little mock-up pillow that I made using scraps that I had all around the room, and the back is a solid. So I'm going to show you how to make this patchwork quilt one, but I wanted to show you the backing so you can see you can either make it patchwork or you can make it solid colors. Doesn't matter. It's your choice. It's your pattern. So let's get to it, shall we? Right now, I've created fabric out of patchwork. So I took this cute fruity fabric from my Mrs. Quilty box. Isn't that cute? Got avocados, we have little oranges and bananas and apples. And I made, as per the fabric pattern, there we go. As per the pattern, I made fabric. Now, what is that? What do we call this fabric? We're going to use this, and we're going to cut out our shape from this fabric. The pattern is in the booklet, the template. What I did was, I don't want to ruin my book, so I made a copy, and I did it on cardstock, so it's pretty sturdy. I've used this twice already, so it works very well, and that way you can reserve it. First thing, though, after you make your fabric with the measurements that the pattern gives you, we need to put a lightweight interfacing on it. So what I did was I cut a piece, and I am going to iron this on here, and it's going to give me a very sturdy fabric. So I'm going to iron this on this side. Furthermore, this is the backing. Now you see our backing fabric. Again, it's the same Mrs. Quilty fabric, but this is the avocados on a white background. So this is going to be the other side of my neck pillow. So what I'm going to do here is the same thing. I am going to place interfacing on here. Iron on interfacing. I'm going to iron it on. I just placed one-sided lightweight interfacing on both the patchwork and the solid sheet of fabric. It should be lightweight because remember, we're just trying to give a little bit of structure to the fabric. So don't use anything too heavy because then it won't mold the way it needs to. Now you can do this one of two ways. I've done it different ways. I don't like to waste fabric and I don't like to waste interfacing. So on the other pillow, I cut out the interfacing exactly using the pattern and I ironed it on to the piece automatically. Now I'm doing it as the instructions show. I took my piece of fabric, I ironed on the interfacing. Make sure you follow your manufacturer's instructions. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this because I'm going to cut this on the fold. That's where we're going to cut our piece. You're going to place it. Bring this up here. Take this out of the way so you can see. I'm going to place it on the fold. As so. Now you can either pin it, although I'm using cardstock and I don't like to pin on cardstock. So what I am going to do is I'm going to hold this here and I am going to use a pencil. A normal pencil. Remember, you're going to be sewing on that line, so you're not going to see the pencil marks. And I'm just going to trace it out here. And that way, when I am done, I just cut around to cut out. and I just cut it out. You can use your rotary cutter. I'm not that proficient with a rotary cutter. If I tried it with a rotary, I would probably make a mess. So that is why I don't. But doing it this way has worked just fine for me. It works just fine. Again, this is fabric that you're going to be cutting. You're going to be cutting on that line, so you're not going to see the pencil mark. You can use a pen. You can use anything you want. There we go. And now, all I'm going to do is cut. That's it. Just simple cutting around. I don't want to use any of my big scissors for this. Here we go. And all I'm going to do is come in here and cut. So you're cutting the fabric and the interfacing at the very same time. You can use these as applique because they already have interfacing on them. So if you want to cut little shapes or something as applique for another project, please do so. This interfacing, though, you can peel it off if you want and reuse your fabric in any scrap that you may want. Let me get back here in camera because, yeah, you know how that is. Just cutting around, going nice and slow, making sure I get my curves. Y'all know how I shake, so I try to be extra careful when I'm using scissors. I want to make sure that I keep the form of the project that I am cutting. And here we go. Here's your scrap. And here is the back piece. All cut with the interfacing. Show you the inside. Interfacing stuck. Now, we're going to cut the patchwork. Now, this, I've done it this way. As you can see, I placed it on a piece of interfacing. What I like to do, I am a very lazy quilter. So I am going to fold this right down the middle, making sure that everything is lined up, and I'm just going to repeat the same process. I'm going to place this on my fold. I'm going to make sure that I cover every piece, that I have everything covered. And again, I'm just going to trace around with my pencil. That's all. So I can cut it out. And again, I am going to use my scissors on this. And since I'm using cardstock, that's why it's so easy. If you're using paper, literally you can pin it onto the fabric and then just cut it out. Me, I like putting things in cardstock because that way I can reuse it. And since this is the second one I'm making, and I'm going to make 3 or 4 more. So that way I don't have to cut the template as much, because this will last for a couple of uses. You're not cutting on it, you're just drawing around it. Cardstock is a heavier paper, so it doesn't deteriorate as easily as just regular paper. And here we go. And now all I have to do is cut around it. So let's do that now, shall we? And we're almost done. That's how easy this is. Just want to make sure I've got all the fabric inside that I wanted. My scissors are a little, give me a little bit of trouble, but that's what happens. You don't use your good scissors for something. That little piece off. The good thing is, remember, what you're cutting around literally is going to be on the inside. You're not going to be seeing this at all. You're just going to be seeing the outside. So it's not like the pencil marks are going to show up anywhere at all. My problem is I just don't like waste. I really, really don't. When you live on a budget, you try to save as much fabric as possible. See, the scissors on this one is a little harder because you're cutting where there are seams. There's my waist. Goes to the side. Here's my other piece. All that's left to do is take your pieces, put them together, and begin to sew. Now, since this is a pillow, you're going to be stuffing it. Always try to find the easiest place to get a stitch without having to go crazy. Me, I usually like doing it through the middle, but in this case, I found that doing it on the side, I just left a little piece open. If you don't know how to do this, easy. Just mark on top where you're going to turn. And this is going to show you when you come to the stitch, you come here, you double stitch here, leave it open, jump, double stitch here, and keep on going. I'll show you how in a second. Very simple stitch. Very easy to do. So I am going to start my stitch. Now you can pin, you can clip, you can do whatever you want to do. I've done so many of these, but let me be nice. Let me show you guys how to do it. You can pin either this way. Some people like pinning like this because it's easier to take it out. I sometimes do that. It is easier to manipulate. But right now, I just want to show you where we're going to start. Okay. So, where's the marker? So I can show you starting from the mark. Here we go. Make sure I'm lined up here. For me, that's the most important place to line up, where you're going to start and where you're going to stop. And again, this is a very forgiving pattern. And it looks like curves, people. Let me tell you something. This is not as, for beginning sewers, I know how you're shaking right now because you see a curve. Believe me, I know, been there, done that. It's not that hard. If you have a machine where you have a 1/4 inch presser foot, that's very simple. Just put it down and make sure your presser foot is on the outside. Whatever you are using to guide your sewing machine, you can put a guide here. You can use the tape or use just the edge of your presser foot. Make sure the edge of your presser foot is on the edge of the fabric, and then just sew. That's all you got to do. Here we go. Get ready. And just keep on easing, because we're not easing anything into place. We're following it because everything is the same form and the same shape. So we're just following. Me, I'm a very slow sewer. I like to make sure I get everything in the middle. When you're using interfacing, sometimes you'll get out of line and then miss the stitch. When you turn it around, you have a little gap. Again, not the end of the world, but if you can avoid it, avoid it. I like sewing when I already know what I have to follow. For me, it's easier than having abundant fabric on the side, because that's where I tend to mess up. And since I cut the interfacing with the fabric, it's the exact same form. So it's not gonna let me mess up as much. Put it that way. Coming into the inside curve, just go slower. When you're in an area you don't know how to sew very well, just go slow. Make sure you don't take your eyes off your needle. Adjust accordingly and just keep on going. Right now I'm checking here at the bottom. Everything looks good. Coming up on the curve, turn it around slowly. Coming up at the end, people. Slowly. 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 And there's my end pin. So now I am going to take my pin out. Some people leave them in. Your choice. Come to my line. I have a seal stitch on my machine. Hit it. It's done. Now, some people will teach you to make little clips. Get little clippers. And when you see a curve, you come, you fold it, and just take a little bit out like this. I'm lazy. What I do, I have pinking shears. So what I do, now this is messy. That's true, but I'm lazy. So I'll just take my pinking shears. And remember, just do not hit your stitch. You're just going to give it a little ease. So when you turn it around, it takes that curve. And that's it. I just go around and keep going around, cutting with my pinking shears. It's giving it the ease. I don't have to go crazy. It takes a lot of the bulk out too. Believe me, it does. Especially when you have patchwork. Since we have patchwork and interfacing, it's a little more bulky. Not something that's, oh my God, it's so, no. It's just a little bulk. In here, all I do is go very slowly again, watching what I'm doing, checking to make sure I'm not touching the stitched line. That's all it is, just checking to make sure. Let me go from the other side now. Where's my pocket? Hello, where'd I leave you? Oh, you're all the way over there. Okay. So, over here, keep going. Remember, this is not a tutorial. I'm showing you how I do this. You do it any way you want, people. I will read the instructions. I'll see how my brain works around something. And then based on how I feel comfortable, I will complete a project. In this case, just to show you, I used the method given in the pattern. But again, I don't like to waste fabric ever. So I will be sitting here taking the interfacing off of that fabric and cutting it up into scrap pieces to use in future projects. But let me tell you something, this pillow is so very cute. My daughter's going to Puerto Rico pretty soon, and she is taking hers on her trip. And this other one, I know my sister, she's going to want it. So, again, this way it is messy. I'm not going to say it's not. There's a lot of pieces here. I'm going to need to get my vacuum cleaner up and running. But I'd rather throw away the trash than be here for an hour. Okay. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it inside out. That's it. The pillows have almost finished because what's going to happen, keep losing my spot. What's going to happen after I turn this inside out is I'm going to stuff it. Then sew it shut. Now, some people like to sew it shut with the sewing machine. I'm going to do it by hand because it's stuffed. It's not stuffed, stuffed. It's stuffed, and I like doing that kind of stitch by hand. I do a invisible stitch, very simple, ladder stitch, whatever you want to call it. And it stays very tight. Very nice. Here we go. Keep coming. This part, you have to be patient. Don't pull, don't stretch it out. Be very patient. It'll come. Eventually, it'll come through. Just have to be very calm. Because I push, pull. There we go. There we go. Now, another trick that I have, not a trick, but something that I do when I am doing this kind of work, is I always have a chopstick or a long stick. Don't use your scissors, people, because you can. See, I've done it. I have not found my chopstick and tried to use a scissor, and I just cut through the fabric. Don't do that. After I finish, I like to give it a good press also before I stuff it, just to make sure. And that way I check all my stitching, make sure everything's where it's supposed to be. Here we go. And voila. It is finished. It is done. All it needs is a little bit of stuffing and love. Now I'm going to take my chopstick here. I use my chopstick or this. This is a quilter's ruler, but you can see it has blunt ends. So I use either this or the blunt end of a chopstick. I'll show you both ways. Just come in, insert, and just push out and push out. There are no points on this one. So you're not pushing points out. You're just pushing the fabric out. See? And make sure it gets that curve. That's all it is. So on this side, I use the chopstick. Over here, I am going to use my quilter's ruler. And I'm just going to do the exact same thing. See? Just pushing it out. Just making sure that the fabric is where it needs to be. And then I'll give it a quick press. Quick press just to make sure. Because it is going to be stuffed. So the pressing is not going to be seen. I do it for my peace of mind. And here you have it. Hopefully you can see it there. Yes, you can. There we go. Voila. See how pretty? Now, again, this is going to be stuffed. So all of these nooks and crannies will be stretched out, but I will give it a press just before. Look how pretty that looks. Isn't that pretty? Now here, all you're going to do is a little stitch here on the top, and it'll stay. So it's stuffed. Look how pretty. Isn't she pretty? I haven't closed her up yet. I just wanted to show you. Another thing that I do when I'm stuffing things is I use the same implements that I use to turn out corners. I use them to get the stuffing in there. Like right now, I'm going to have to I'll do a little bit of manipulation because I need more stuffing here at the bottom. So there are a lot of ways to do this. You can just move it around. I like it to be fairly solid because this is going to give your neck support. But before I sew it up, I just wanted to show you how pretty it looks. Look at the back. Isn't that nice? See, you can make it in full solids on both sides if you want. You can do patchwork on both sides if you want. You do it your way. You create the fabric or the style you want. You use the colors you want. You can use suede. Oh, and suede it would be pretty. So many things you can do with it. And then you have a very nice neck pillow. So give me a few minutes. I'll be back after I sew this puppy up. And I'm back. Dun, dun, dun. Look how cute. Tell me that isn't just cute. Just tell me how cute this isn't, because it's just too cute. Look at that. Let me see your, yes, look. Look how cute. Isn't that adorable? Yes, so just so you can see, very easy make. I made it quickly. I just, did the cutout so we could get through it quicker. But literally, really easy to make. You use up scraps in this sense. This is just part of that collection for that month. All of it, the other one I did basically with just scraps that I had in my scrap pile. You can make a bunch of travel pillows. You don't necessarily need it just for travel. This is going to work perfectly right here. I can sit back in my chair and just relax with my pillow. Remember, this video is sponsored by Mrs. Quilty. Mrs. Quilty subscription boxes. Receive them every month, and you get several patterns for different projects and quilts and blocks. You get 16 fat quarters, beautiful fabric, and a couple of notions, all for just one monthly price. But more to the point is on your first box, you can get 30% off if you use my discount code in QuiltFect30. Remember, 30% off your first box of a Mrs. Quilty subscription. 30% off just using the code in QuiltFect30. Come back next month for more fun projects and beautiful fabric from Mrs. Quilty. Have a great afternoon. Bye.